right now. Virtuzone. Uh-huh. Found Virtuzone. Okay, hold on a second. Bear with me, guys. Okay, finding Virtuzone. Hi. Go live with Virtuzone. This should work. Please work. Yay! Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
I don't
Hey,
happen. I
thank you,
mean, I was
George.
trying to
Sorry,
connect.
it's just confusing. I'm sorry. I'm a bit of an amateur when it comes to things like this as well, so no stress. Guys, sorry for the delay, and thank you for logging in. Um, I have George here with me. George Hajij is the CEO of Virtuzone. I'll allow
Hi,
him to
guys.
introduce himself, to introduce the company. And the whole point of this discussion is to talk a little bit about what's going on in the startup world right now. Virtuzone set up companies across the board in the UAE, and they basically set up my company a couple of years ago. So I contacted George because I had a few questions about what's going on right now with trade licenses and startups, and what is he seeing on his end of things on a macro scale. So I thought he'd be the best person to ask. George is a very good friend, and I wanted to have him on board, and he was really kind enough to agree to come on board. So thank you, George. I'll allow you to introduce yourself first.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for having me. Finally, this technology thing's a bit challenging sometimes, but we got it done. Hi, everyone. My name is George Hajej. I'm the CEO of Virtuzone. I don't want this to be a very commercial talk. Basically, what we do is we do company formation and company setups. So we set up about 100 companies a month. We do all the paperwork and all the boring stuff that you don't want to know about. And we've done over 15,000 companies so far in over 10 years. So I think the aim of this discussion, Tracy, without getting commercial, because that's not the aim here, is you want your viewers and your followers to get more information about what's going on at the moment in the
Yeah,
industry and with SMEs in general.
exactly. So
So
my
thanks
first
for having
question
me
to you
on, first
is,
of all.
yeah, of course. My pleasure. My absolute pleasure. My first question to you is, with this whole pandemic hovering over us and the situation we're in, what are you seeing on
Yeah.
your end of things with business? Are people still setting up companies right now? Are they sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to get better? What are you seeing? What are people that have existing companies set up that went through you guys? What are they going through with in terms of renewing their trade licenses and stuff like that?
Mhm. Well, listen, obviously, when this started about 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, we had no idea what to expect. So we were very worried about which way the business was going to go. As you know, we're a big
Hmm.
part of the startup ecosystem, of the SME ecosystem in the country. In times like this, you would think, it's survival, and people are not thinking about starting businesses or renewing their businesses. Or so we really did not know what to expect. What we realized very quickly is that, and I think, human nature tends to push us to make opportunity out of adversity. And what we
Hmm.
realized very quickly is that, wait a minute here, there's going to be a lot of people throughout this that are going to find this time the best actual time to start their own business. Because obviously, unfortunately, there'll be a lot of redundancies with work. There's a lot of people that are going to be let go. Also, this is a bit of a dead time, right? So business is slow at the moment, and maybe this is the perfect time. Hold on, maybe this is the perfect time for somebody to start a business and get it ready for when we bounce back from this. And to be honest with you, we've had one of our biggest months in April that we've had in the past 12 months.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm the first one who was very surprised by it, very happy with it,
Hmm.
but very surprised
Hmm.
by it. We had done everything to put people at ease. We obviously had a lot of promotions out there. We tried to lower the cost to a minimum as a company, because we wanted to do our part. We built we built. I'll tell you a couple of things of what we did to help the business community and the SME community in the local market. But we realized that there are many people that were waiting for this opportunity or that took advantage of this opportunity to do something that they've been wanting to do for a very long time. And when's a better time to do it than when you're stuck at home with downtime and very little work?
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I mean, I think the way a lot of people do this is they need to be cornered and pushed to swim for them to eventually figure out how not to drown. That's how I set up my company with you guys. And it took for me to really be cornered for me to try to get moving, right? So I think you're right. Maybe this is a time where people are getting laid off and they may need to figure out what they're going to do next. So this could be a good time. So yeah, it makes sense actually that people are
It's a
setting up
mixed basket,
businesses.
Tracy. To be honest, it's a mixed basket. We have the people that are laid off and that want to set up a small business so they can have visas for them and for their families. We have people that have a great idea that they've always had and say, you know what, I'm going to set it up now, start working on it. So when we're out of this, I'm ready to start operating right away. And then you have people that are actually taking advantage of the crisis and saying, you know what, there's a lot of things now that can be done, that a lot of profit that can be turned from businesses that are rolling very well now during this crisis. And I know we're going to talk about this later, but you know, something I'm sure every single person on this chat has thought of it. Oh my God, supermarkets and delivery services must be making so much money in these times where everybody's at home. So we're not the only people that think like this. A lot of people think like this, and the real entrepreneurs go out there and set up a company and pursue that, and they're getting successful.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so we're lucky enough to live in the UAE where the government and a lot of companies are looking at measures to relieve some of the stress during COVID-19. So we're very fortunate to be in a country like the UAE. What are you guys doing in your company to relieve some of the struggles that people may be facing while setting up?
Of course. Listen, a lot of people will position this as, you know what, we're so good to the economy that we are doing this for you guys and for this and for that. The reality of the matter is we're all in trouble. I mean, it's getting better, but we were all in trouble at some point, and there was no choice but to help each other out in whichever way. So a lot of people, again, on this chat have had a problem, you know, or a challenge paying their rent. So they spoke to their landlord, had a challenge in paying their debts with the bank. So they spoke to the bank to postpone or defer payments and so on. And we also felt that for us to continue on with business, we had to offer things to our clients to actually comfort them and make it easier for them to do what they need to do. So the first thing we did is obviously we lowered our prices and our margins to a minimum level. We spoke to all the free zones who are our partners and said, listen guys, if you really think that you're going to continue doing business as usual in times like this, you're in la la land. So we need to really lower the price to make it as easy as possible for people to start up their companies. And to be honest, everybody was very responsive. We had a lot of our partners, free zones, that said, you know what, you're right, let's go with half price, let's go with this, let's go with that. So we were happy about that. We also put out an offer out there to beat any offer in the market. So we said, you know what, we're the oldest in this industry, we're the most experienced in this industry. Obviously, from a branding point of view, we're probably the most known in the industry. It's our duty to be there and go out, especially in time like this, and say, you know what, you want to say that you're the strongest? Well, put your money where your mouth is and go ahead and say, you know what, any offer that people get out there, we're going to beat it. And that was a very successful offer for us as well. I would say from a philanthropic side, we set up a site called standtogether.ae. Standtogether.ae, which my partners Jeff and Neil worked very hard on, and we turned it around very quickly with the help of Merkle, which is a big marketing firm. We were able to set up the site and have it up and running within a week. And the site basically is a marketplace for businesses, for small businesses in the UAE, to advertise their offers for free during this tough time. So I think in a week time after it was set up, we had over, if I'm not mistaken, over 200 companies registered and over 300 offers. And people were calling me and saying, this is great. In the middle of a crisis where everybody's freaking out, you guys are setting up free websites for people to advertise. And you know what? We actually did it because we felt that we were a big part of this ecosystem of SMEs and startups, and it was our duty to offer something to them that they could actually go out and use and actually could help them get some sort of revenue during the crisis.
Right. Okay, that's really cool. I didn't know about that, by the way. That's really interesting. Okay, so
I'll share it with you. It's very, very cool, and people had a very, very positive response on that.
Yeah. So in the region where we are right now, a lot of, I mean, technically speaking, startups are the ones that need the most incubators. And we usually find a lot of support in the industries such as energy and real estate and tourism, but we don't really find it in the startup world. What do you guys think about that?
Listen, incubators are a special type of support system where the actual the model of an incubator is they will support you, give you some minimal investment to start with, host you, have you in their offices, give you advice in return for equity in your company. So the majority of incubators, when you say incubator, is somebody who's going to come in as a silent partner and be partners with you basically for free. Right? What they would give you in return is, you know, registration, and they will give you their offices to work with and so on. This is not our model. Our model is basically we provide you with the full service to have you set up. Our partners, we have a big network of partners. Like I told you, we've been in this business for over 10 years. Our big network of partners can help you with the value-added services that you need, whether it's insurance, whether it's consulting, whether it's accounting, whether it's these things there. Incubators are a different concept. Incubators are more in it, you know, I don't want to say it in a bad way because incubators do great stuff, but they're in it for the money more than for the actual service providing.
Right, right. Okay. So what about the concept of having startups here not really auditing, and they don't really follow the rules and regulations as a startup? It's not really emphasized right now in our region. So you get a lot of banks struggling with the concept of probably lending money to startups, and you don't really have a lot of people on the good side with banks, let's say, when they're brand new in the industry. Do you guys play any role whatsoever? I mean, is there a role played where you guys can ease that concern for banks to help them?
Absolutely. I mean, banking has been the SME's black sheep in this region for a very long time. It's been everybody's nightmare. Everybody's aware of it. The banks are aware of it. The central bank's aware of it. The government's aware of it. The business community is aware of it. Unfortunately, we live in a world where banking has become a global activity. It's not only a local activity. A lot of things are tied up to banking, as you know. You and I, and probably the listeners on this chat, probably use banking for very honest activities and for day-to-day business activities and personal consumption and personal banking. Unfortunately, a lot of the bad things that happen in this world also go through the banking system, which has, in a worldwide economy or a globalized economy, if you want, has put in some rules that must be followed unless you want to be ostracized on an international level. The UAE, as you know, has always endeavored to be part of the leaders in the world in terms of business and place of business, which has put some pressure on, let's call it, on governance when it comes to banking. Today, it's not true that it's very difficult to open a bank account. It is difficult to open a bank account if you don't have the requirements that a bank is looking for to open an account for you and not worry about it. When you think about it, all banks want to open everybody an account. I mean, that's their bread and butter. Banking is basically providing bank accounts and the services that go with it. The central bank governs the bank accounts, the banks and the bank account opening here. And there are certain ticks that you need to have in order to be able to open a bank account. You must show that you're a legitimate business. You must show that the activities of your business are really what you do. You must show that you are actually conducting business. You're not using this as a shell company for tax purposes or tax evasions or whatever you might think of. And this has put some pressure on the SME sector, on the startup sector in general, because, you know, we open 100 companies a month, Tracy. So, you know, if a guy's coming in and he's got a consulting firm with a flexi desk, doesn't have an office and doesn't have a visa and wants to open a bank account, well, I'm sorry, he is a high risk person to open a bank account for, because who knows what kind of business he's doing. Now, the good news is, lately, as of this year, there are, I mean, it's on hold now because of this whole situation, but there are new regulations that have been put in place for economic substance. What economic substance is basically that you're going to have to do a self-audit every year that to fulfill a certain number of criteria to prove that you're actually working in this country and that you have a company doing what you're saying it's worth doing with board meeting minutes, with audited accounts and so on. And this will actually ease the bank opening, the bank account opening, because you will then have proven that you are actually a company that's doing economic substance here, that's actually working, not just a shell company that's being used to do dodgy transactions.
So I
But to
agree with
answer
you
your
on that
questions,
front, but then there's a struggle with the minimum due for you to the minimum requirement that you're supposed to have in your bank account as a deposit for you to open a company, for them to lend you money, the requirements. And not just that, even setting up a business in the UAE is hard. Being a startup in the UAE is quite difficult and it's quite expensive. You will not have that struggle in Europe or the US, for instance. To set up a company, you can just register it for a few $100s. But here it's
that's
quite
true.
expensive, right?
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, Tracy. That in the U.S. or in Canada, where I grew up and where I've lived most of my life, you can set up a company for $50. But I also tell you something
Right.
else. In Canada, for every dollar that you make, the government will take half of it. Right?
Half
Don't
of it.
forget that.
Sure.
We're in a country where we're
Mm-hmm.
not paying taxes, we're not paying corporate taxes. So how do you expect to build roads and to provide services and to provide top-notch international services when you're not taking fees on business? And so they're
Right.
telling you here, you know what? Yes, it costs you from 10 to 100,000 dirhams to set up a company. But on the other hand, whatever money you're making, good for you. That's in your pocket. That's your business genius, and good for you. Now, to go back and say, about the requirements for bank accounts, these are being eased up. There's a lot of banks now that are requiring a minimum balance of 5,000 and 10,000 dirhams. There are digital banks that we're working with, like Mashrik and Emirates NBD, and there are even some banks
Yeah,
in
you can
Europe
actually apply online. Mm-hmm.
that are doing a great job in opening, digital bank accounts and online bank accounts. That's making much easier to, at the very least, open an account to be able to transact. Okay. Now, when
Right.
it comes to minimum balances in your accounts, the banks are now in full competition. And when I first came here, I remember you needed 300,000 dirhams minimum to start a company. 300,000 dirhams as a share capital. Today, you can do as little as 10,000 dirhams. So on that front, things have
Correct.
improved. But the reason why, and this is important for people to know, the reason why it costs more to set up a company in the UAE than it costs in the US is that in the US, you will pay them taxes for life.
Yeah.
Whatever profits you're making, you will pay taxes for life. Here, whatever profits you make are in your pocket. And you know what? The small price to pay for that is getting a license and renewing it every year. No big deal to me, if you ask me.
Right, right. Relatively, actually, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. Okay, what about next generation equity? Okay, so people getting citizenships so that they can survive when they have a passport that doesn't really do well for them, or they place capital in a certain country and they're able to get that passport. I know that you guys do that.
Yeah.
Is it a new concept?
Yeah, we have a division. We have a division, a smaller sister company, if you want, called Next Generation Equity. Next Generation Equity is all about citizenship and residency by investment. The concept is very clear. You pay money to either invest into real estate in a country, or to give it as a donation to the government. In exchange for that, you get a residency or a passport. Well, some of the most popular programs that we have that everybody knows about is the Caribbean programs. Grenada, St. Kitts, Antigua, and these countries, where you can invest, for example, in hotel shares for 5 years for as little as $130,000 or $140,000, and these shares will yield a return of 1.5% to 2% for about 5 years, and then you get the passport within 3 to 6 months, and after 5 years you can actually sell those shares to somebody else who wants a passport, and that passport gives you access to Schengen, to many countries. Unfortunately, we live in a part of the world where passports are having less and less value. Obviously, not here in the Gulf, but some of the Levant countries and some of the North African countries, passports are becoming less and less valuable. And for people like us who need to travel for business or for family purposes or for safety, even now, safety is becoming more and more of
Right.
an issue. We're getting a lot of clients that are coming in that are going for these options.
So yeah, that's it. A lot of people are coming in for those options now. Is it now more than a year ago, let's say, you're seeing the spike
Again,
then?
again, Tracy, again, you would think that in times like this, people are hesitant, but it's also in times like this that people are the most scared, and they start thinking about the future of their families and the safety of their families and so on. And we have programs in the Caribbean that are as little as 180,000 for a family of 4. So $180,000 in the grand scheme of things, to have a passport for your
It's a
family
pretty
where you
big
can
deal.
travel whenever you want, wherever you want. is not a big investment. Sorry, I say that in all due respect. For some people, it's not for everybody. $180,000 is still a lot of money for a lot of people. But we live in a part of the world where there's a lot of affluent and high net worth people.
Right. Okay. Um, so just on a more emotional front, let's say, or personal front, a lot of people, and me included at the time, enter the startup world not knowing anything about what they're working in or the business that they're setting up. It's sometimes based on a good idea more so than a knowledge of the industry. Are you guys seeing that a lot with people approaching you guys? And do you guys actually consult or give advice or maybe put them in touch with your network or something like that? How is it,
We
how are you
definitely,
easing
we
that
definitely,
sort of uncertainty?
we definitely put them in touch with all the experts in our network, and we have a very big network. But let me tell you one thing: the most successful businesses are the businesses that are born from passion. Don't think that the expert in coding is going to be the best guy at building an app, or the expert in finance is going to be the best guy at having an auditing firm. What we see and what we realize, and again, we've opened up over 15,000 companies, so we have a great sample to look at. The people who are the most passionate are the people who are the most successful. Um, the ideas that we come across sometimes, like I've looked at people and said, man, are you serious? Is this the business that you're going to open and you think you're going to make money out of that? And the guy comes to see me on the fourth year when he's renewing, and he says, I told you that things were going to go okay. And you know what? They're not necessarily making billions, but they're making a good living out of it. They love going to work every morning. They love the fact that they built this company and their company is growing. So passion, when people ask me, passion, in my opinion, is the most important thing when you're opening up a business. Don't open a business because, well, I'm not going to say that, but
Because yeah,
you should open a
you're gonna
business where
think of
there's a
it.
need, where there's a need. But if you have a passion for something, definitely go out and do it, because you're going to be the best at it. You're simply going to be the best because it's not going to be work for you. It's going to be life, like you did. When I met you, you were still in
Yeah,
the finance world, and today I see you doing
yeah.
cartwheel. I'm going to laugh at you a bit here, but I see you doing cartwheels on Instagram. And I told you today when we spoke on the phone earlier, I'm very proud of you of what you've achieved, from an idea that at the
Thank
beginning
you.
was very, it wasn't very framed. You
It
didn't
was
know exactly
sketchy.
what you were going
Yeah,
to do. Yeah, you didn't know exactly what you wanted to do, but you knew that you didn't want to do finance, and you knew that you wanted to do something that is energetic and where you can get creative and where you can communicate to people and teach people. And look where you are now. So I'm extremely proud of you. We're proud of you at Virtue Zone, and we see a lot of cases like you, and we're
thank
very
you.
happy to see that.
So that's why I asked the question, because I know that a lot of people enter because they have some sort of drive and they need to get out to try something new, but then they, just like me, I don't know where to start or what to do. And then I think because of that passion, one thing leads to another. One opportunity opens, you take that opportunity, and then you keep moving from one direction to another, and then eventually something comes out of it. And like you said, I think it's because you do it with passion. So you don't feel annoyed about putting in the work, or which most people would feel if you don't give a shit about what you're doing, pretty much, right?
Tracy,
Um,
Tracy, there's something
yeah,
there's something very cool about sitting down at your desk or sitting down in your home or wherever you're working from for on your own and say, how the hell am I going to pay the bills next month? And that kind of
hmm,
pressure can only be felt by entrepreneurs who start their own business, and the necessity to generate revenue and make profit is what drives you forward and what drives the company forward. I'm not going to tell you that if you have a
absolutely.
whole lot of passion for something and you start the business, you're going to make a killing. What I'm telling you though, when you're sitting on
Yeah.
your couch and you're saying, you know what, I need to pay rent next month. So what am I going to do with this to be able to pay rent next month? And that's what drives business forward. That's what drives the economy forward.
Totally, I couldn't agree more. You know what I'm going to do, George? I'm going to actually put on the comments and highlight some of the questions that people may have, just so that we can get
Sure.
more people involved in the discussion, okay? So, guys, if you have any questions about setups, especially here in the UAE, you guys are primarily UAE, right? That's your emphasis, George. So, if you
We
guys have
do
any
we do
questions,
UAE, and we're opening up in Saudi very soon.
okay. So any questions, guys? If any at all, George is here. We're happy to answer. So shoot away. Let's see. Okay, I see a few questions. Do they have a musical business division? Oh, somebody's asking if you have a musical business division. So explain a little bit about what Virtuzone does. Virtuzone are the people that's, well, George, I'll leave it to you. So people are a bit
Yeah.
clear because
So
yeah.
what's the question again? What's the question again, Tracy?
So someone's asking if you have a musical division. So I want them to be clear that you guys don't care what sort of industry it is. You just help
Yeah,
get the company
we
set
set
up.
up, you know, we set up all sort of businesses, anywhere from, yeah. To give you here are a few examples of businesses that we've set up. We've set up a salmon farm. We've set up a digital bank. We've set up a dentist office. We've set up supermarkets. We've set up hotels. We've set up obviously every single type of consulting business you can think of. We've set up also every single kind of trade business you can think of. We've set up beverage factories. We've set up anything that you can think of has a license that exists for it. So
And
besides
even like
tobacco, which is
freelance, just
tricky,
for freelancers as well.
anything,
Just an open
anything from the
freelance
smallest
business. Yeah.
freelance business to the biggest multinational. We set up all kinds of companies, and again, anything and everything has a specific activity that's dedicated to it in the government and in the way to set it up. That's why it's important to go and at least get advice from us on how to open it, because you can very easily be misguided into opening into the wrong activity.
Yeah. Somebody asked this question, what kind of business opportunity are available during this pandemic? I think I'm going to put a twist to it. A lot of people that are setting up right now, or I actually wanted to ask this question. Um, what's the majority? I think you maybe answered it now. You said a lot of consulting. Is that like the majority of businesses that people get into, or for what you guys are seeing?
Right now, it used to be, I will tell you, it used to be. Right now, consulting is preferred by people that are not sure where they want to go with their company, right? So I know that I have an idea. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't zeroed in on the exact idea, but I want to start, and I want to start preparing from now. They'll go for something like consulting. What we're seeing now, we're seeing a surge in e-commerce activities. So everything in e-commerce you can think of, from food delivery to electronics delivery to, and when I say delivery, to trading online, to personal services online, whether it's hair, nails, makeup, all that stuff. So e-commerce is really something that's surging now, especially in the current situation where people are staying at home more and more, and home services are really a surge. But e-commerce, we're seeing a lot of demand for that, and the free zones are doing a lot of offers for e-commerce as well.
Okay, so somebody asked the question actually, if I start a website that is online service, so e-commerce, do I need to be registered in the UAE?
Absolutely. You cannot sell anything or deliver anything in the UAE unless you have a license to do so.
Right.
And that's a
In
trade
any shape or
license.
form, actually, even as a freelancer, if you're doing sports or
As a
anything, you actually
freelancer
need a license.
on social media, as a freelancer, on a website, door to door, out of the trunk of your car, whatever you sell in the UAE, you must be licensed to sell it.
Right. Okay, what else? Do you think we should open when our revenue is minimal and we're at risk of not covering the expenses, or should we stay closed?
Well, this is for an existing business, I would imagine. It's a very fine balance between, and it's up to you to determine, to evaluate that. It's a very fine balance between remaining closed and getting zero revenue and not being able to pay out any of your wages or any of your payments, or open up with minimal revenue or lower revenue and then be able to manage your cash flow to do some payouts, because obviously there's a technique to survive this. It's cash flow management, and then moving on. So I think that depends from business to business, and it depends on what's the minimal or the reduced revenue that you think you can get if you open up. If you don't think you can get any revenue, then I would advise to definitely not open up now. But if you think that you can get minimal revenue or lower revenue, I would advise you to do it and manage the cash flow that you get out of it.
Right. Okay, so this Lada is asking a question, but I can't seem to read the whole thing. Thanks for the session. What do you advise entrepreneurs to be or to do as an exercise before consulting with, I guess, with Virtuzone? what sort of measures they need to do, and how do you guys do the setup? Maybe you can just run them through
Well,
the seamlessness of the
yeah,
process of setting up.
I mean, you can't just come to us and say, well, I know that I want to open a business, but I don't know what I want to open. I don't know in what field, and I don't know how much money I have, and I don't know where I want to be in 1 year, right? Open a business. Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. You know, you have to have a minimum of reflection on what you want to do. And to be fair, people do have a reflection. I'm just trying to trivialize the point here. But when you come to us, or when you come to start a company, whether it's with us or somebody else, you need to know what kind, at the minimum, you need to know what kind of activities you want to deal with. So what is the type of business that you want to do? You need to know if you are going to need visas. So is this a side hustle? Is this a side business? Or is this going to be your main source of income and your visa source? So the business has to support the visas. Are you going to have employees? Are you going to need an office? And how much money are you going to invest into that business to start? These are essential questions if you want us to advise you on what's the best way and the cheapest way to start your business, and probably the most efficient way.
Right. Also on the
Lara,
personal
just
front,
to answer
somebody's
Lara,
asked.
because that's a follow-up on her question. You don't need a tentative
Yes.
business plan, no, but you need a minimum of information that you need to have. You don't need a P&L per se or a projected revenue per se, but you need to have a minimum idea of where you want to go with this.
Right. And also, maybe just at the very least, know what sector you're going to be in, because that's what your requirement is to set up your trade license. What sector? How is it going to look like? The minimum capital for that sector, or investment in that sector, I guess. Yeah. What makes
The
VirtueZone
minimum
different from
capital,
other major businesses?
that's a
Sorry,
good
go ahead,
question.
George. Yeah.
That's a
Someone
good,
said,
okay, I'll answer that one.
what makes
What makes
VirtueZone
what?
different from other major business setup companies?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's $1 million question, isn't it? Listen, I'm gonna
Putting you on the
answer it.
spot.
Yeah, and I'm gonna answer it and try to be as neutral as possible. First of all, we were the first ones to open up in 2009. After that, we have a few businesses that actually, and you know what? I can't blame them for it. Copy pasted exactly what we do to a certain level that even their name contains part of our name. These are some of them, and you know what? There is a demand for it. We're in an entrepreneurial part of the world, so there was a demand for it. We've been in this business for 11 years. We are partners with every single free zone there is in town. There's over 59 of them. We do mainlands. We do corporate sponsorship, so you don't need an actual local sponsor. We sponsor you as a company, and we can tell you, if you call us or you go on our website, you can have more information on that. Let's say we pump them up like hotcakes, right? So we do 100 a month. So we've become so accustomed to it. We've seen every single activity. We've seen every single scenario. People come to us when they have problems because we've seen every problem. We know how to solve every problem. We know who to talk to for every problem. And there will be a lot of problems and challenges in setting up and running a company. And it's normal because there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. And even though it's becoming less and less, you still face you hit a wall sometimes, and that's okay because you're not experts at this. That's fine. But we've seen every single scenario. We have over 100 staff. You've come to our offices in downtown in Suq al-Bahar, Tracy. We have a very professional approach. We're here to stay. There's a lot of companies out there that are corner shops that have 3-4 people. Some people that used to work with us have gone out and tried to start their own business, doing the same thing, partnering up with the wrong free zones and offering low prices and working out of shared offices and this and that. It's just not comparable. You know what? You can always, I'm going to be very honest with you. Maybe not now, because now we have that offer where we beat any offer, but you can always do it cheaper than us. You can always do it cheaper than us. You can always buy cheaper than a Mercedes or a BMW or whatever, because I don't want to call us the Ferrari, so I don't scare people with our pricing. We're not that expensive. But right now we're beating any offer, so our prices are rock bottom. But you can always find something cheaper. When it comes to setting up your company, it's very important to get it right from the beginning, because the amendments that you'll need to make after, or the fixing if something is broken, or the corrections that you will have to make will cost you a lot more than doing it. And I think you've been through something like this, Tracy. Then you need to.
So I got it right from the beginning. I was very happy about that. That's why I really vouch for setting up. When people do ask me about my setup, I always vouch for you guys. not for
Yeah.
anything, not because I know you, George, or anything, but because I honestly got
Yeah.
such a seamless way of setting up my business. I came to Virtue Zone not knowing anything. I was
Yeah.
scared about how I'm going to do it, who am I going to speak to, what free zone, what licenses, what this, what that, no idea. And I thought that it was going to, I had to sell an arm and a leg to be able to go to all these different random places to set up. My company is set up as a Fujairah free zone. All I had to do was come to your offices, and then I sat with, I think it was Ola at the time. She basically said, these are the documents I need from you. I'll take it from here. And everything was done
So
on
here's an
my
interest.
behalf, which is something that I think,
Here's an
yeah.
interesting story about Ola for you. So Ola decided that
Mm,
she was going to take a year off and take a sabbatical and go traveling around the world. And you know when was her last
yeah.
day? March 1st.
When,
And the airport shut down the
oof,
next day. So Ola,
oh my
Ola will
God.
not be going around the world for the next few months, unfortunately for her. But that's
Are
just
you serious? That's
yeah, it
so
was just
bad.
an anecdote I wanted to tell you. So yeah. So to make a long story short, what makes us different from the
Mm,
rest is basically our experience. You simply cannot replace experience, especially in company setup and structuring. There's a lot of
mm,
ins and outs in the law. There's a lot of ins and outs in the structure. There's a lot of ins and outs in the paperwork, and people need to know about that. Don't be fooled by anybody just posting any advertisement out there or any, hey, we can do it for
yeah,
you. Yeah, you know what? You can do it yourself if you want to, but are you really going to go
yeah,
to 64 or 59 free zones and ask the price from everyone and what are the conditions from everyone and go stand in line and then miss a document and then come back to get it and then go up to Fujairah or go up to Sharjah or go up to Abu Dhabi
mm,
just to give that document again? You do everything from our office. We know
absolutely,
from the start. We'll give you the
absolutely.
options from the start, and you don't have to. Our business model is very simple and straightforward.
Yeah, I'm with you totally. I mean, I honestly always vouch for you guys. So again, I'm always so appreciative because coming from someone that's passionate about the concept and set up a business and it's your baby, and I'm sure a lot of people come to you starting something from scratch and it's their baby. So I will always have be grateful to the people that helped me set up, and you guys are play a major, major role. So thank you so
And
much.
we're glad you're doing well.
Thank you, George. All right. So I guess we'll wrap it up. Unless there's any other major questions. I do not see any. Wait, let me just see.
Oh,
Okay,
there's
so let's just answer this
somebody's
one.
asking, yeah, on what basis would
Which one?
Virtue Zone invest in a startup? Is that the one you're saying?
Okay, then answer that question, please. I'll allow you to answer as well, whatever
Yeah.
you're seeing, because it's hard
Well,
to
the answer is
fathom.
very simple. The answer is very. We don't invest in startups. We are again, we're company formation specialists. We're not investors. We're not seed investors. We're not venture capital firm. So Virtual Zone does not invest in startups. We invest in the startups invest in themselves by coming to us to get set up right from the beginning.
Hmm. And the
What's the other one you
second
had?
question, what are the limitations of free zone company in the UAE?
Well, the limitation of a free zone company is depending on the activity that you want to do, you will want to open in a free zone or in a mainland company. If you're going to do some trading outside the UAE, you're much better off or if you're going to do a trading, international trade or international e-commerce or whatever it is, you're much better off in a free zone because you're 100% owner of your company. The costs are relatively lower. The permits and so on are relatively easier to get. The governance and the regulations are a bit slacker than being in a mainland legislation or jurisdiction. Sorry. On the other hand, if you want to have an office in Dubai, if you want to have an office in Abu Dhabi, if you want to have an office in the city, then you have to have a DED license, which is a mainland license, and you cannot. It's a gray zone in a lot of areas. But if you're going to operate a trade business, for example, and be having a store, you cannot have a free zone license and open a store in the UAE or a clinic or a consulting office or anything like that. So then you would have to go with a
Nice.
mainland license.
Okay, cool. Let's get one more in. Entrepreneurs claim that starting up a business is already saturated in multiple industries. What are your views on that? I don't know if I've
Obviously,
heard that, but people,
I haven't heard it either. But I mean, if that's what the question is, uh, I strongly disagree with it. I mean, the
I
90
agree too.
90% of the economy is run by SMEs. SMEs open and SMEs close, so we must always have that flow of new companies that are coming in. Listen, if you look at
Mm,
all the all the budding startups that have come up in the last 10 years, none of these startups exist, none of these industries existed before. So there's always new industries to invest in. And you know what? I'll tell you what, there's still some people selling shoes and making a hell lot, loads of money. And there are some people that
Of
are still
course.
making food and making a whole lot of money. And there are people that are still, making dresses and making pants and making shirts that, age-old businesses, and they're opening now and they're making a lot of money. So no, I disagree that industries are saturated. I think that entrepreneurship is on the rise. Actually, I think that people and globalization is now at a turn point, especially with what's happening right now. And I think the economy might actually turn more and more into local economy or regional economies. And I think we're going to see a surge in actual demand for local businesses and regional businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, George. I don't think industries are saturated. I think it's the industry itself could be a common industry, but the people that are doing well in the industry have changed the game a little bit. And if you add that one extra thing that changes the game a little bit, then that's all it takes. It doesn't
It's,
mean the
a
industry
bit of
itself is
imagination, a
saturated.
bit of passion, a bit of, people think that opening a business is rocket science. Opening a business can be very simple sometimes, and your idea can be
Mm,
very simple. You don't have to be the next Facebook or the next Uber or the next, whatever it is, Airbnb. You can have a very simple idea and it actually works. You can sell keychains, you can do so many things that if you do it right and if you do it with passion, you can make money. So a big mistake that entrepreneurs tend to do, sorry, a big mistake that entrepreneurs tend to do is to think, what is the great idea that I can have, that I can, make a revolution in this world. No.
right.
What is it that you know? What is it
Mm,
that you're passionate about? And try to start with that and start small. Don't say, I want to go out and make $1 billion right away. Because I'm going to tell you what, you're not going to make $1 billion right away. But you know what? Try to
absolutely.
start by saying, I want to make 10,000 dirhams a month. I want to make 20,000 dirhams a month. Hell, I want to make 100,000 dirhams a month. But the billion will come and will take a long time to come.
Yeah, absolutely. George, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for showing up and for giving us your time. So thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me, Tracy. For those listening,
My
go to
absolute pleasure.
standtogether.ae and check out the offers. This is for supporting local businesses. It's absolutely free. We're not making money out of it. Nobody's making money out of it. This is for us to help each other. Go to standtogether.ae, look at the offers and post some of your offers if you have them. And Tracy, I want you to go and post some of your offers as well.
I'm definitely going to do that. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you,
All right,
Tracy. It
guys.
was
Thank you
lovely
for
seeing
tuning
you.
in.
Take
Take
care.
care,
Bye-bye.
guys. See you.
Bye.